Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani, and my guest this morning. I haven't seen him in a long time, but my old friend Fred Oke Nzako, he's here. He's a lawyer. He's a policy analyst. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Yori, and good morning to our esteemed viewer.
Indeed.
You're esteemed viewer.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We're laughing now. I hope we can keep on smiling as we look at the subject matter. Today, the president would have visited the National Assembly, the House of Reps in particular, since he had been invited to come along and explain to them critical aspects of the whole NSAS agitation. Now, the president had said, at least the papers had reported that, paraphrasing the president, I will obey the summons. So, okay, we were, again, I don't know if you can really believe everything you read in the papers. And for that matter, everything you hear on television. And for that matter, everything you hear on radio. You know how we say. But there was that news out at the time. Now, here we are. We can certainly believe that the president seems to, if indeed he did first say that he would respect and obey the summons, if he did say that, the president seems to have had a rethink, massively aided by his Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, who is opposed to the president going and explained that the House of Reps has absolutely no right to summon the president. But he then went ahead and explained that because of the nature of what they were talking about, the president is commander-in-chief. They wanted to talk to him in relation to some strategy, how he deployed the army and all of that. And in the opinion of the Honorable Attorney General, he says, no, they can't do that.
Yori, thank you for having me once again, Yori. And let me say that I am happy that you are the one handling this issue, this topic. I know why I say I'm happy.
Okay.
Because we intend to educate Nigerians on this matter. For a very first time in a very long time, Yori, I came with Constitution of Nigeria. Because the issue we are talking about is constitutional issue. And the narrative is so distrusting, so distressing to the people, so worrisome to the people that the people are almost at a wonder as to what exactly is the intent of our Constitution. What exactly is happening in Nigeria? Do we have a president or we have presidency? Nigerians want to know the difference between a president and the presidency.
Well, clearly,
clearly
we have a president.
We have a president.
And he's part of the presidency.
Yes, and he's part of the presidency. Now, it is also important that we enlighten and educate Nigerians. The journalists will always tell us what they don't manufacture the news, so you will never hold them responsible or accountable for anything that you hear, because the Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives announced to Nigerians he went to the villa in the heat and in the wake of, let's lay the foundation of what happened. The foundation is that after the massacre of Zabamari, where 48 at least accepted, 48 people were killed, and which UN said 110 people were killed, of which Boko Haram said it is not 48, it is 78 people that they killed, and dozens of people are still missing, the rice farmers that were slaughtered like chicken. The hue and cry reverberated around the world. The state of insecurity in Nigeria came to the fore once again about the safety of Nigerians, the lives and properties of Nigerians and those residents in Nigeria. And the National Assembly, being the assembly of the people, now felt this is a matter of urgent national importance. What do we do? What is going on? This problem is getting too much. Let us ask Mr. President. Don't forget that prior to that, both chambers of the assembly had passed a resolution asking Mr. President to do something about our security architecture. All right? If whatever that needs to be done, let it be done. Because you cannot be doing something and the same thing all over and all over again and expecting different results. At this point, we are doing the same thing and expecting different results. Mr. President, kindly do something different and let us get different results. Now, it came to that head that members of the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, said, we need to know exactly what is going on. Let us ask Mr. President, kindly come and talk to us. That was where the whole thing started. Yeah. And it was a heated argument on the floor of the Green Chambers. The Speaker, the Majority Leader, and the spokesman of the House tried to manage the situation. It was very difficult for them to manage. They now said, okay, let us hold down this action. They went into executive session, came out and decided, okay, let us go and meet with Mr. President. The Speaker led a team of leadership of National Assembly and went to Aso Rock and came out and said, Mr. President has agreed to speak with us. Let us really know exactly what is going on. Date and time was fixed for today, Thursday, 10th of December, time 10 a.m. So as we speak now here, Yori, Mr. President is ordinarily supposed to be talking to his people in the National Assembly. That is the background.
Yes.
Now, going forward, what now happened? Loretta Onochie, the spokesperson to the president on, special assistant to the president on digital media, said Mr. President will address the chambers of National Assembly. It was an endorsement of the statement made by the Speaker. Nigerians were waiting. The whole environment was charged. Some skeptics believe that this president that we know will not. But let's keep the skepticism aside because it's right in the realm of prediction.
Well, speculation.
Or speculation, if you may.
Because I did paraphrase a headline some time ago where the president said, I will indeed obey the summons.
Obey the summons. The president... Now,
but then moving forward to...
Now, going forward,
the day before today.
That was yesterday.
Yesterday.
The Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN, now came and threw spanner in the works and said, the National Assembly does not have the constitutional right to summon Mr. President. The underlying technical word that Malami used is summon, but that is a wrong use of word. It is not someone that the House of Reps placed for Mr. President to obey. The House of Reps invited Mr. President. Yeah. If you want to even couch it succinctly, Mr. House of Reps pleaded because for them to move from their chambers to Aso Rock.
There actually is a difference between invitation and
summon. There's a clear difference between invitation and summon. Both of them may mean the same thing, which means at the end of the day, the result is appearance of the person.
Okay,
the
end result.
The end result. But the process is different. Someone bears a force of law. Invitation bears a force of understanding. Invitation is a polite way of asking somebody to come. Someone is a forceful way to ask somebody to come.
Wait a minute, right there. An invitation doesn't have to necessarily be accepted. It might be the polite thing to do. It might be the expected thing to do. But as you just said, it doesn't have a force of law.
That is why Abubakar Malami SAN went and used the word summon. The National Assembly never used summon. But Malami used summon in order to scuttle the attempt of the interaction between the president and National Assembly.
So why do you think...
We will come to the technicality, whether Malami is right or wrong. But I can tell you here and now that the National Assembly has constitutional authority to invite Mr. President.
Okay.
And we'll get there.
Indeed, we will get there. And reading part of the reasoning going on from the Attorney General's office, is that the National Assembly can indeed invite anybody, not excluding the president, if such an instance is furthering their primary function of either making laws or adjusting anything in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
So if it is not in furtherance of making laws, the Attorney General seems to be thinking that there's no basis for the summons, to go to the summons. I was just
or rather, the invitation.
Or rather, if you want, the invitation.
Yes.
And I've read something about, I've read in the press where, I'll just give you this headline now from Falana, Femi Falana SAN, don't embarrass yourself. Go ahead and accept the invitation. His advice to Mr. President.
Yes.
That kind of a thing.
Yes.
But before we continue, what if Mr. President appears and if he doesn't. So why don't you want Mr. President to appear is the question that would come to people's mind. Why don't you want the president?
That question can only be answered by the Honorable Attorney General himself.
Because the president himself appeared ready to appear in the recent past.
The president appeared ready to appear. The president himself had given his words that he will appear.
Yes.
Except if he didn't mean it.
Well,
except if he didn't mean it.
There's no way he will say what he doesn't mean.
No, I can tell you I'm coming, whereas I'm going.
Yeah, but presidents don't do that.
But I mean, in our environment, it become obvious that even presidents do that in our environment.
Okay.
If Mr. President said, okay, I'm coming, and then somebody now comes and says, Mr. President, don't go. I don't think you should go there. The question is, which the Honorable Attorney General must answer is, what is it that the government is hiding from the people?
Well,
why wouldn't Mr. President
appear? What do you think about
why won't Mr. President? Because what
do you think of the reason that was provided, which is that, look, as Commander-in-Chief,
yes,
talking about the strategy of the army.
Did they ask Mr. President to come and talk about strategy? If they want strategy, they will invite the Chief of Army Staff. They will invite the Chief of Defense Staff. I'm coming. They will invite the Minister for Defense.
But they went to the Commander-in-Chief.
And those ones will now come and talk to them behind closed doors.
In a closed session.
Behind closed doors in a closed session. And then whatever that is meant for the public will be given to the public. The one that are not meant for the public will be digested. All aimed at rejigging the system and ensuring that we achieve results. And I now tell you why they had to go to Mr. President. Yuri, the Constitution of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, provides that in section 67, subsection 1, it is the right of attendance of Mr. President. That Mr. President may attend any joint session of National Assembly or any meeting of either House of Reps or the Senate, either to deliver an address on national matters, including but not limited to fiscal measures that covers budget. That's why he goes to the joint session to present budget estimate. Or take such statement on policy of government as he considers to be of national importance.
Yes. Yes.
An extension of that, under section 67, subsection 2, that a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall attend either House of State Reps or Senate, if invited, to explain to the House the conduct of his ministry and in particular when the affairs of that ministry are under discussion. Don't forget that President Muhammad Buhari is the substantive minister for petroleum resources. If issues that have to do with petroleum is being discussed and the minister need to come and address the chambers, wouldn't the president go? He's wearing double cap now, one as president, one as minister. So it is settled that as a minister, the Constitution provides the right for the assembly to invite him, and he is under obligation to go and attend to their summons. In this case, it is summon, not an invitation, right? Because once they agree on that, it is gazetted in official government gazette or even in their journal, National Assembly journal, and it has a force of law. In which case, if the minister fails to come, that's where you now begin to have this problem that between the legislature and the executive. All right? Now, coming down to the crux of the matter, the Mr. President himself. If Mr. President does not have that authority to go, or rather, that the National Assembly does not have the right, I'm coming, the National Assembly does not have the right to invite him. Don't forget that it is the same National Assembly that is embedded, that is included with concerned authority in section 88 of the Constitution, that for any act of National Assembly that becomes a law, any person or authority that has the responsibility or duty to implement, administer, or execute that act can be called by the Assembly to come and explain one or two things with respect to the issues relating to that act.
Indeed.
I'm coming. Let me land that thought before he runs away from me. Now, Mr. President went to National Assembly and asked that $1 billion be approved as loan. for security issues. Why did he go? Now, National Assembly approved that $1 billion. Doesn't that same National Assembly have the right to ask Mr. President, at least, even if outside from any other thing, we approve $1 billion for you, and we are still having challenges. Come, let us rub minds. Is it that it is not enough, or that it has not been adequately applied, or is there any law that we need to make that will help you to secure our people? In that wise, the National Assembly, by the time you combine all these sections of the Constitution, you will now see that Honorable Attorney General of the Federation has misled Mr. President.
Okay, now hear what the Honorable Attorney General says, and I'm quoting this from published reports.
Yes.
Quote, the management and control of the security sector is exclusively vested in the President by Section 218, subsection 1 of the Constitution as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, including the power to determine the operational use of the armed forces.
Yes.
Now, an invitation that seeks to put the operational use of the armed forces to a public interrogation is indeed taking the constitutional rights of lawmaking beyond bounds.
I do not agree with him.
That's Malami for you.
Yes, that's Malami for you. And I will now tell you, Fred, for you, that I do not agree with Malami. You know why? The issue of security does not stand on its own. It stands along with deployment of resources, human and material. And when it comes to deployment of material resources, National Assembly comes in, because the right to appropriate funds is the exclusive authority of National Assembly. And then you cannot prosecute any security matter without money. Okay. And where does that money come from? Does it come from the pocket of Mr. President? It comes from the Federation account. And who has authority to appropriate that money? It is National Assembly.
So what do you think?
So what now happens is that there must be this concept and doctrine of separation of powers does not mean that each will be in its own compartment doing its own thing. Watertight. No. It is fluid. And there is always communication and intercourse among the three arms of government for government to work.
So what do you think, Fred, of when the Attorney General continues with, quote, as the Commander-in-Chief, the President has exclusivity on security and has confidentiality over security. These powers and rights he does not share. So by summoning the President on National Assembly, by summoning the President on national security operational matters, the House of Reps operated outside constitutional bounds.
Attorney General was only putting words in the mouth of National Assembly. These were not their words. They never asked Mr. President to come and talk to them about any operational matter at all. I told you earlier that if they had wanted that, if they wanted to hear operational issues, they know where to lay their summon. They will summon the Minister for Defense, they will summon the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and all the service chiefs. They will summon them, and not the President. But when Mr. President went to take $1 billion loan, was it the Chief of Air Staff that went there? Was it the Minister for Defense that went there? It was the Presidency, exercising that his authority as the Commander-in-Chief. Nobody takes it away from him. But like I earlier said, that it is not in watertight compartment. If he wanted to prosecute security issues and there is no fund towards that, where will he go?
Well,
he will go to National Assembly, naturally.
Even
Assembly, if he wanted to take loan,
he
will still go to National Assembly for approval.
But to use the analogy of soccer, that's a set piece. He will have to, as you said, go to the National Assembly. But that's a set piece. This is a bit out of the ordinary.
It is not. It is the Attorney General that is changing the narrative, Yori. I want Nigerians to understand this. The Honorable Attorney General is changing the narrative to suit his own interest. And what is his interest?
Yes.
That Mr. President does not go. Pure and simple.
So why?
And that is what, are you asking me? How will I know? Nigerians must hold him responsible to tell us why.
Okay,
Why does he want to shield Mr. President from his people? And meanwhile, if Mr. President, there is this practice of addressing the people. You are a senior media man. What has happened to the presidential media chat?
Okay.
Is it in the Constitution?
That's another that's another question. Mr. Lawale in Ikorodu, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Chief Yori.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Chief Buhari.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, yeah. Please, this matter that we are discussing is so important to the whole country. One, those in the House of Representatives were elected by people to go and represent them. And what is uppermost in the mind of the people is this insecurity. And the only person that can provide solution to this or give them an insight, whether we have challenges or not, as your speaker has said, is Mr. President. They are not, and the Attorney General is playing with semantics. Forget about someone or the
invitation.
It's a matter of semantics. The important thing is that people are being slaughtered every day in the Northeast. People are being kidnapped every day in the Northwest. Okay? And this is affects the people that voted for the president. Mind you, the president is to implement the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. So, Malami that we did not vote for cannot be misleading Mr. President. Secondly, there would have been a constitutional problem if the vice president had not been at their next meeting. Maybe the APC has a national legal advisor, and Malami is also there, and he was advising them to dissolve all the organs of the party, but for the intervention of the vice president. So this idea of politics to the gutter to stop in Nigeria.
Okay.
They should stop stealing the president from the people that voted for him. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawale. Fred, what about that part of the Attorney General's offering, which is that the president has exclusivity over confidentiality, as he put it, in security matters?
He doesn't have any exclusivity. The only thing is that the ball stops on his table. The buck stops on his table. That confidentiality.
Well,
that
he is the commander-in-chief. He's the final authority on all security.
In terms of giving of orders and how to deploy the troop and the rest of them.
And pursuing an effective security.
That exclusivity stops at the point of appointment and deployment. That's why I told you, utilization of human and material resources. Fine. But, for example, the information that is going to come from the field is going to come to Mr. President from his own field officers, the service chiefs. Now, it is no longer that exclusive because it is whatever that has come to him came from the service chief, and whatever that came to the service chief came to the field commanders. So there are now 3 layers. And whatever that came to the field commanders, we have from the experiences of the men in the field, 4 layers. So where lies the exclusivity? These things are, he's trying to clothe a very simple thing in, make a mountain
out of a molehill.
Well, and the last caller said, and asked a rhetorical, very important question, why are they shielding Mr. President from his people that elected him? Let me tell you, Yuri, that Section 143 of the Constitution, which talks about the removal of the president from office, requires in subsection 6 that the president has the right to defend himself in person if there is a similar accusation of breach of provisions of the law, which who determines that breach? It is the same National Assembly.
Yes.
But
that follows the principle of what is it? Hearing.
Separation of powers and fair hearing.
Yeah, fair hearing.
Fair hearing, but the Constitution provides that he has the right to defend himself in person. Will he stay in his house and be defending himself in person? Assuming there was a motion now.
I wanted to suggest to you, Fred, that there are differences. I wanted to suggest to you that perhaps there are differences between these different categories of interactions between the president and the National Assembly. Some of the things you cited, for instance, the budget. He goes in there, he presents it to them. That's one example.
Because it is provided for in Section 88 of the Constitution.
He wants an extra budgetary loan. He has to go there.
He goes there.
You know.
Yes.
Now, none of those kind of occurrences are as it relates to his office of Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Armed Forces. In other words, we're talking the ultimate insecurity. And this is where Malami is making a difference in my unlearned opinion, that, wait a minute, this is security. You speak to the National Assembly, you speak to the whole world, including the enemies of Nigeria. I don't know.
Our constitution says...
Is there a need to make a difference because of the office of Commander-in-Chief as opposed to
those
other ones? Yes.
Very good. Our constitution says that the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of the people of Nigeria. The constitution did not say the primary purpose of the president. Government.
Yes.
The primary purpose of government, security and welfare of the people.
Yes.
And what is government? 3 tiers: state, local, and federal. 3 arms: executive, legislature, and judiciary. That is government. And when we say government, it does not mean only president.
Yeah, but it does typify. He does typify.
We're going somewhere. We're going somewhere. What it now means?
I don't want to lose a caller. Good morning, Mr. Rufai, calling in from Kaduna.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead right now, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. You see, what I want to say is that we Nigerians, in most cases, a lot of us in Nigeria, we don't appreciate what we have until we lose it. The reality is, yes, there are crises in the northeast and in the northwest, and it has been like that for quite some time. President Buhari came and inherited this problem. But we have forgotten. We seem to ascribe everything to him as if the man has not done anything. We are victims of the problem. We appreciate the man has done a lot.
Yeah, but that's not the question we're discussing, sir.
You are discussing the fact that the man has ignored National Assembly because of the same situation.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yes. And the same thing you discussed on the hangout last night. The same thing of the problem in the northeast and the northwest. We are the victims. We knew what it takes us to travel from Kaduna to Abuja both days. It will take you 7-10 hours to travel from Kano to Kaduna.
Okay.
Another 7-10 hours to travel from Kaduna to Abuja. There are times you cannot even move. We knew what was happening at that time. Today you can travel, if not because of the nature of the bad roads, if not because of the nature of the roads that Fashola refused to give attention to intentionally, you could travel from Kaduna to Abuja in 3 hours. But because somebody ignores our road, blocked our road from Kaduna to Zaria, you spend 3 hours. Intentionally, nobody is talking about that one.
But Rufai, forgive me for interrupting you, Rufai, but what do you think of Mr. President seemingly changing his mind about accepting the invitation to the House of Reps? What do you think of that?
Mr. President is not a lawyer. Mr. President is not a lawyer. He is just a politician, and that is why he has myriad and chain of experts. And if he heeds to the advice of experts to ignore that one based on knowledge,
all right.
No problem about that.
I hear you. Thank you very much, Rufai. I want to open up the line for someone else. Now, the president, okay, and thank you very much so far, and indeed to those people that have called in. The president, in his wisdom, didn't see any big deal to it, is the way I'm interpreting all of this, is why he accepted initially and said, according to reports, he would indeed obey the he would I don't want to use words like someone, but he would be there. He seemed to think that no big deal, I'm gonna be there. Mr. President has the answer to whatever it is they wanted to ask. That's President Muhammadu Buhari. Now,
that is your thinking.
That is my thinking. That upon the invitation,
to your own thinking.
He said, I'm going to be there.
Yes.
Now, his chief law person, the Attorney General, a day before, now springs on the public that, as a matter of fact, there are confidential aspects to all of this, and the National Assembly, well, the House of Reps would have exceeded its constitutional powers by trying to get the president to come the way it is.
Let me break the pot. From day one, I knew Mr. President would not go there. I felt. The same way you thought. I also predicted that Mr. President would not appear.
Yeah, but I didn't think he wouldn't appear.
No,
I thought he would appear because he said he would appear.
I predicted he will not.
Okay.
And I have very robust...
When you just said the same way.
Yes,
because
I have very robust...
It's the opposite way to yours.
I have very robust reasons to believe so.
Okay.
Since 2015, Mr. President talked to the media only once. Only once. And that media chat lasted for less than 45 minutes. And never again.
Are you talking about
since 2015?
Are you talking about that this day TV appearance? Or I can't remember.
No, there was a media chat.
Okay.
We saw it.
Okay.
Right? Whether it was pre-recorded or whatever, but it's only once. And there has not been anyone. If the president is the type of personality that engages the people from time to time, there wouldn't be need for this request by National Assembly. The constituents are now worried that they don't hear from their Oga. And the only people that they will worry are their representatives and say, kindly, at least when the Oga talks to you, you can now come and re-echo what he said to you. And then we will now have our heart in our chest that we are safe in Nigeria. That is the whole
exactly.
That is the whole thing.
We wanted to be reassured that we were.
And it would have afforded the president a very big opportunity to interact with his people.
Which is why he said he was going to come, or he was going to honor the invitation.
That was Loreto Onochie.
Until Malami.
It was Madam Loreto Onochie that told you, not President.
Okay. Nnameka.
Not President.
Nnameka in Isolo. Good morning, sir. Go ahead now. Nnameka. Oh, we lost him. We wanted to come to you, Nnameka, in Isolo, but apparently we lost you. You're saying that was not the... Well, the president has spokespeople.
Sometimes the messenger determines the authenticity of the message.
Okay.
The very moment it came from Madam Loreto Onochie, tongues started wagging that this will be taken with a pinch of salt. And today, it has come to fulfillment.
I hear what you're saying, but she didn't have to say anything at all. So the fact that she chose to say something is because she was directed to so speak.
Now, who directed her?
Probably the person who is most concerned.
Yes.
The person
who directed her?
Well,
as a matter of fact,
let's go to this word that you spoke.
Yes.
The presidency directed her.
Oh, the presidency. Very good.
Presidency directed her.
And then, let me tell you, Yori, that Nigerians even relied more on the statement made by Femi Gbajabiamila.
Okay.
After that visit to the villa. Nigerians relied more on that. That was why Nigerians didn't worry much about the pronouncement by Madam Loreto Onochie. They were looking at Femi. And after coming out from the villa and said, Mr. President has given his assurance that he will interact with us.
Yes.
Femi didn't give date and time. He didn't give timeline. It was Madam Loreto Onochie that now came and gave a definite timeline, which is today, Thursday, and even gave time for 10 o'clock. And yesterday, Spanner went into the wheel.
Okay, let's hear from Kasim in Badagry. Good morning, sir. Kasim, are you there? Good morning.
I'm all right. Good morning.
Okay, quickly, please. Go ahead now.
Yeah. This is Azim for Badagry.
We're waiting for you. Please, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm getting.
I don't know. Kazim, can you hear us? We're saying good morning. Go ahead now. Speak. Say your piece. Maybe I'm sure there's a technical problem, so he can't hear us.
So now, that is the challenge, Yori.
This whole hullabaloo.
Did the message come from the right source?
Well, the presidency.
Yes, partly no.
Well,
partly yes, partly no.
Okay.
And then some conspiracy theorists will now say that it was set like that ab initio to give a leeway for Mr. President to backslide.
No. Well, okay. I hear
Recall that one of the, I think it was even the immediate past budget presentation. Mr. President didn't go there in person. He sent his aides. It was delegation that came to the National Assembly to present the budget. The Constitution has allowed that because the Constitution says the President has to cause the presentation, of the budget estimate to be laid before the both chambers of the Assembly. So that
he has to cause.
So whether he came in person or not is not a problem.
Yes.
It's not a problem.
Yes.
But now the same Constitution has so provided that the power to conduct investigation lies with the legislative house, which in common political balance, the oversight function. And that requires that National Assembly shall have power by resolution published in the Gazette or in their journal to direct or cause to be directed investigation into one, any matter or thing with respect to which it has power to make laws. Yeah. If the National Assembly has power to make law on this thing, it has oversight function to look into it. So if the National Assembly has power to make law on appropriation, which security is part of, it has the right to ask questions with respect to ensuring that at least the superficial issues that will enhance that security are tightened up. It also has power to make law to conduct of affairs of any person, authority, or ministry, or government department charged or intended to be charged with the duty of executing or administering the law enacted by the National Assembly. Yuri, these things are there. Yeah, they were not made by Fred and Sako. Yes, they are here in the Constitution. So what is the Attorney General telling us?
But this is security. Unless you don't want to accept
the nitty-gritty.
Security,
if, for example,
it includes a lot of things. Security includes intelligence, for example. Wait now, is it not so? Is it not so?
I agree with you. The president is not going there to tell them when he will go and bomb Boko Haram site. That's not what he's going to tell them. He's going to tell them efforts being made. The laws you made for us to prosecute this, don't forget that at a time, there was this problem in times past, in some years past, that there was this allegation that it was cleansing. There was challenge. When Ifeji Ejika was the chief of army staff, this same president, then an opposition person, said it was an ethnic cleansing and that UN would be involved. And then Ejika said, we operate within the laws of the country. So if today we are having this issue, it is the same National Assembly that you will talk to. If there are laws, Mr. President does not make laws by himself. It's only administrative and executive order that he can give. The laws, simplicity, are made by National Assembly for order and good governance and progress and security of people in Nigeria.
So, as you've said to a number of questions I've asked, it's only you go and ask the Attorney General. He's the person who knows. How I wish the Attorney General could actually call in, or someone from his office call in, to further clarify these whole matters. Because the date was set, well, as you said, Loretta Onechie, she set the date. But a day before, you now give us reasons as to why
those reasons
it's not appropriate.
Those reasons are not tenable, Yori.
Let's take a break.
They are not tenable.
Let's take a break, and we'll be right back, and we'll continue to take your calls. Stay with us. Okay, welcome back, and we're having a conversation on the president visiting or not visiting the National Assembly as a result of an invitation from there. And all the papers are full of it. I'm looking at The Nation here. Senators Malami oppose Buhari's invitation by representatives. Constitutional crisis looms as Buhari shuns NAS invitation, The Guardian. This day, Buhari makes a U-turn, ignores House summons on constitutional grounds. What is the bone of contention here? What is going on? Is the president, well, let me say, the presidency put out that Mr. President will be there, and then it can't remain tomorrow. The AGF.
The report by the media outfit that says that he ignores the summon on constitutional grounds is not right. Because unless the Constitution was interpreted by the Office of the Attorney General upside down, I have laid it bare here, right? The Constitution is a public document. Anybody who doesn't have issue, go and pick it up and go to section 88, go to section 67. These two sections, and then marry it with section 143.
And then can you marry it with section 218 subsection 1, which AGF was quoting as well? Yes,
well, the AGF is only saying enlarging the authority of Mr. President on issues of as the commander-in-chief.
Yes, is taking the management and control of the security sector is exclusively vested in the president by section 218 subsection 1.
The exclusivity is with respect to deployment of man and materials. And there is a budget provision.
Okay.
For example, aside the budget of Minister of Defense, right? He who appoints the military heads, Recall that in times past, they never needed to go for confirmation in the Senate. But the provision made provision, there's a provision for that. Even in the Armed Forces Act, that for one to become the chief of army staff, I think it was Festus Keyamo that went to court. Then, when he was Keyamo, not now that he's a politician, he went to court.
What do you mean when he was
No,
Keyamo?
no.
When he was Keyamo, he still is Keyamo.
We know the difference between
He still is Keyamo.
We know the
Festus
difference between
Keyamo.
Festus Keyamo, the lawyer and activist, and Festus Keyamo, the politician and minister. We know the difference. So he's not on the table. We are not talking about him. Okay. But the credit goes to him that he went to court and exposed that hidden law that for you to become the chief of any of the service chiefs, you need to be confirmed by the Senate. Mm-hmm. And the courts gave him judgment in that regard. And from that day onwards, the service chiefs now had to go to Senate for confirmation. That is the law. Now, it is that same law that says the National Assembly has authority to ask anybody, any person, that's what the Constitution said. He didn't make any exception.
Yes.
Any person, any authority, any ministry or department to come and explain one or two issues with respect to executing and administering or implementing the laws that came out from National Assembly. Every law being implemented is a law or act of National Assembly.
That area, let me bring my unlearned self in again. Maybe not exactly so, because that would be the work of the courts, as you just described it. But if it is in the process of their primary function, which is to make laws.
Let's use the one that everybody knows.
Okay.
Let's use appropriation.
Okay.
Right? The executive prepares the budget. They go to National Assembly. National Assembly scrutinizes it. Add, remove, rejigs, it becomes a bill.
Because it's a constitutional requirement.
Yes. It is sent to Mr. President. He accents. It becomes an appropriation law. At the point it has become law, who implements it? Who executes it? The executive. At the federal level, the president and his team. The ministers and the rest of them, they are all presidential team. In the course of doing that, if there is anything that needs to be rejigged again, they go back to the National Assembly.
Yes.
And that authority lies with the National Assembly because that Appropriation Act is an act of National Assembly. The same Armed Forces Act, for example, is an act of National Assembly. The president has authority over the armed forces, but the National Assembly has authority to make laws for armed forces. That is why I told you that it is not a watertight compartment.
Right? In keeping with the principle of separation of powers.
Yes, separation of powers is not a watertight compartment because this government has its role, this government has its role.
Yes.
Judiciary comes in when there is conflict of understanding and then there's need for interpretation. That's where judiciary comes in. That's the way it works. So, and the Honorable Attorney General knows. And that is why Nigerians must ask him, why are you shielding Mr. President from his people who elected him?
Either shielding Mr. President or shielding the security apparatus.
Shielding Mr. President.
From prying eyes.
Shielding Mr. President, not the security apparatus. Shielding Mr. President.
But Mr. President doesn't need to be shielded. He's the top hombre.
Yeah, but that is what is going on.
He's the top hombre. He's the commander-in-chief.
When last did he talk to the people? That's what you ask. When last did he talk to the people? And when next will he talk to the people? And let me even further project, further predict that till 2023, Mr. President may not set foot in the National Assembly. And that is undermining our democracy. It's not good at all. It's not good at all. Going by the trajectory that that Malami is putting on the table, the line he wants to re-roll Nigeria into, means that Mr. President may not even go to the National Assembly. Even when he needs to present the budget, he will just send the minister and his chief of staff, like he had done in the last year, last 2 years.
Words like railroading. Words like railroading. No, but that's not the business of the Attorney General of the Federation.
No, but that is, did you see the media outburst?
Yeah.
A lot of people have started thinking, especially the apologists of the party, that Mr. President, after all, does not need to go there. Meanwhile, this same Abubakar Malami has to be told that he's Attorney General of the Federation, not Attorney General of APC. When APC had National Executive Council and caucus meeting in Aso Villa, we said this is wrong. Malami said, after all, he is the leader of the party, he can hold the meeting anywhere. Yori, this is President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, not President of APC.
I hear you. And
Attorney General is the Attorney General of Federation, not Attorney General of APC. He is different from legal advisor of APC. He has to know this. And we cannot continue to undermine our democracy.
But is there a sense in which the Attorney General is also the legal advisor, no matter how informally used, of the president? That is to say,
Yes.
you know...
No, that the Constitution has provided for that.
So
it is the only office of the minister that has a backing, express backing of the Constitution. It's only the office of Attorney General that is expressly provided for in the Constitution. The president can decide to, apart from the fact that every state must produce a minister. If we take that one away, the president may decide to collapse the ministers in ministries into about 10, if not for that position. But the office of the Attorney General must always be there. And that is why people like us who are progressives have asked that there be a clear separation from the office of the Attorney General from that of Minister for Justice. Minister for Justice can be a politician, but let the AG be the AG of the Federation.
It would appear that a lot of your colleagues, I mean, by which I mean lawyers, they're not quite down with what the AGF has done. Effectively advised Mr. President not to appear, and then providing reasons that you have you shredded them, quite frankly. You know that these are not reasons.
These are not reasons enough, and that is why those lawyers you mentioned really feel that the Attorney General is not doing this country any good.
Falana went as far as saying, Mr. President, don't embarrass yourself.
Of course.
Please go ahead.
I stand with Falana on that, because he knows. He knows. If he's watching us, he'll be happy. That because sometimes he feels he's the only voice. When he's watching us, he'll be happy that he's not the only voice. There are other lawyers who really know, who say the same thing that he is saying. And the laws are there. Since 1999, it has been there. I have gone through all the amendments. There is no part of the amendments that has affected this section of the Constitution. So, I mean, the Attorney General must take back his words and advise Mr. President very well towards progress, safety, security, and the growth of Nigeria. The way he's going, he is playing more politics than doing the professional duty of an Attorney General. The office of the minister is overshadowing so much the second arm of his responsibility, which is Attorney General.
And that's the professional.
And that is the professional one.
As Falana says, I'm reading off the front page of the Punch here, a quote, by the combined effect of sections 88 and 89 of the Constitution, the National Assembly is empowered to summon any public officer.
Absolutely, we're on the same page. Any Nigerian can pick the Constitution and go to that section and know who is telling the truth.
Thank you very much, Fred. It's been a very informative one. And sorry about the phones, because I know we're told that calls were coming in, but for some technical reason, we couldn't hear the calls. But you could see that a call is coming in. So sorry about that, but thank God that we did get some calls in, and hope this has been of some use. We'll see how this situation progresses and develops. Or if that is the end of it, it's dead, and he's not going anymore, and that's that. Let's move on to the next subject. We'll see how it goes.
well, that won't be good for our polity. And then we'll ask National Assembly to tweak it a bit. There's always a tail to hold. Let it hold the tail. And let's see whether the dog will work.
Nzeako, lawyer and policy analyst, I beg your pardon. Thank you very much for coming on. So that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folai. Bye-bye for now.